All of you. I hearty welcome for the second session of the FDP entitled Outcome-Based Education, Improving Employability Outcomes. I welcome all the HOIs, all the Dean and Directors of the Parul University who have joined, as well as our expert, Mr. Ajay Bhagwat sir. This second session would indeed prove a very important session for all of us. Since we observed in the last session, we got a very insightful input from Bhagwat sir. So without wasting much of our time, I believe that we should go ahead with the second session. I welcome you, sir. You can please start with the session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Very warm welcome and good afternoon to all of you. I'm going to share my screen now. And in the beginning, let's recap. First of all, the main points that we covered last time, and then we can take it from there and go on to the second session. I'm going to bring back the slide deck of last time. So this is the one. I'm putting it into presentation mode. So before we go ahead, please let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to now recap quickly in next 5 minutes the main points covered by us, discussed by us last time. So we talked about unlearning a few things, and we want the graduating programs like BSc, BComs, BTech are to be identified as programs, and the courses like subjects covered in those programs are the courses at which for these courses we design the course outcomes, and for the programs we design program outcomes. So we discuss this concept of what outcome-based education is, how the decisions about the curriculum are driven by the learning outcomes of the students who achieve those outcomes at the end of every course and at the end of their program. Obviously, these course program outcomes are being continuously gained by them or achieved by them over a period of time. They go through many courses and during their process of graduation, and since the number of program outcomes could be 6 to 12 to 15, and the number of courses to cover those program outcomes could be anywhere between 20 to 40, 45, naturally there will be one-to-many relationship. That is, one program outcome could be delivered by multiple courses, maybe 3, 4, 5 courses, and naturally the students will continue to gain the outcomes at the program level, progressively during this journey of graduation. So obviously it is very useful for continuously measure the course outcomes as well as the program outcomes during this journey of every students in every batch. And the whole idea of the analysis of outcomes is to continuously find the gaps in their learning, and when it comes to the core process that happens inside any educational institution, which is teaching and then learning, then we obviously have to talk about what the teaching process is and what the learning process is. So essentially we discuss this idea of knowledge dimensions, which covers factual, conceptual, procedural, and metacognitive knowledge, and the learning process, which is cognitive process, and that is defined as also Bloom's taxonomy, which is commonly known term used for the cognitive process. The cognitive process actually can be identified, can be evaluated by asking questions by the teachers And the idea here is that if the teacher is asking factual questions, or rather teacher is delivering factual knowledge, then if the teacher wants to identify at what level the students have reached, then accordingly the framing of the question is important. If the teacher wants to know how many how many students have reached understand level, then accordingly the question has to be framed so that it becomes easy for the teachers to identify how many out of 60 students reached understand level and how many of them reached remember level. And if you were expecting almost 75% of the students to be at understand level, and if you are finding 50% students at understand level, that means there is a gap of 25%. And that's the analysis of gaps when it comes to identifying the gaps in the learning outcomes. So this cognitive process dimension helps the teachers to look at the teaching process in the perspective of how many students are reaching to what level of the Bloom's taxonomy, or to the on the scale of the cognitive process dimension. So if the other example could be, if the teacher is teaching conceptual knowledge, and if the teacher wants to find out how many students have reached apply level of the cognitive process, then accordingly the question could be framed. And then if again here, if the teacher wanted to find out what is the percentage of the students who were at apply level, who were at understanding level, and who were at remember level, and then if that is compared then with the desired percentage of the students at that level, then again that will become a kind of gap analysis. So we looked at an example of a mental rubric which actually teacher uses every time a subjective answer is evaluated. And we took an example of a question having 4 marks, and then we tried to know how many students were falling in the bucket of 0 marks scored by the students, or 1 mark, 2 marks, and 4 marks scored by the student. And that itself is a nice example of how the teacher unknowingly uses the cognitive process dimension and the Bloom's taxonomy concepts here, in the day-to-day teaching learning process. And all we have to do is add analysis on top of the current process, and it immediately starts giving you meaningful, insightful analysis about the cognitive process of the students. And that shows you the gap by comparing it with your expected number of students to be at those certain in those certain buckets. Like if you were expecting 25% students in the bucket of apply, and if you are finding 16%, then there is a gap of around 9% students there. So how many students you could practically push upwards from remember bucket to understand, and from understand bucket to apply? We know that it is impractical to think about all the students to be at apply level, but there could be a reasonable level of targets that you can think about, and accordingly the gap analysis could be done. So the foundational process of evaluation doesn't change. We actually just add a couple of layers on top of our current teaching learning process, and everything then immediately changes. And that is the continuous improvement that we can bring in when we start analyzing the learning process of the students. When we were trying to relate the knowledge dimension with the program outcomes, and we then took example of the program outcomes from each of the categories of the knowledge, skill, and attitude. And we could see here the relationship between these program outcomes examples. For example, understand the nature of and basic concepts of cell biology, or apply the knowledge of mathematics. So it is actually more of factual and conceptual level program outcomes. So naturally, these program outcomes could be delivered by the courses which are delivering factual and conceptual knowledge. If you look at examples of the program outcomes, like foster analytical and critical thinking abilities for data-based decision making. So database means analysis, right? Modern tool uses, so it's a creating, selecting, applying appropriate technique, resources, modern engineering and IT tools, for example. It means thinking of some models, using some tools, some skills, some techniques. So naturally, such program outcomes could be delivered by the courses related to procedural knowledge. So this is the very easy mapping you can do with the program outcomes, and you can think about what courses can fulfill the requirements of such program outcomes. Um, and if you look at the examples of attitude level POs, which could be like this: the engineer and the society, or leading themselves and others in the achievement of organizational goals. So this is all about the metacognitive knowledge. And metacognitive knowledge, it itself is not taught separately through a course. There can't be a course easily designed. Maybe the psychologists may differ with my comments, but this metacognitive knowledge is sprinkled in all the courses. It's there. It's about the providing that kind of environment and opportunity for the students to come together, learn, create some project, or some kind of example like Baha competition. It helps them come together, build a vehicle, and that gives them a tremendous exposure to various aspects of metacognitive skills. So any such activity that can be identified as that will give the students an ability to think about whether or not they have leadership skills. Are they good communicators? Can they estimate the things? Can they plan the things? Can they manage a project? Right? Such things are known and understood by them through some of the activities that are designed in using the current courses. So your attitude level POs may not be delivered by a different course itself per se, but it's there. I mean, these courses can be used for creating the activities which could help the students to achieve those program outcomes related to attitude. And then we moved on to the top-down design of a program, and here we started applying all the factual and conceptual knowledge that we discussed about this FDP itself, outcome-based education itself. We started applying that here. Now this is becoming a kind of now procedural level knowledge, right? We are designing a model here. So here we took examples of two courses. One is associated with knowledge level PO. That means it is delivering factual and conceptual knowledge. And another course is delivering conceptual and procedural knowledge, because it is fulfilling requirement of two program outcomes. One is PO1 and another is PO6. And PO6 happened to be a PO from skill category of the POs. So it has got a dual association there. And then obviously this will have the impact on the course outcomes designed for each of these courses. The first course will have all the course outcomes measuring the learning outcomes of the students at the level of factual and conceptual knowledge level. And for the second course, some of the course outcomes will deal with the PO1, and some of the course outcomes will deal with PO6. And accordingly, the distribution of the course outcomes for that course will have to happen. And when it comes to the measuring the learning outcomes of the students for these course outcomes, naturally, we will have to assess the students' learning as per the cognitive process scale by asking the questions relevantly, by framing the questions so that their factual and conceptual knowledge is evaluated, or their procedural knowledge could be evaluated. So the percentage of the questions that are asked in the case of course 1, which are to be at apply level, will be lesser than the questions asked in the course 2 for the apply level and analyze level, because this course is more about helping the students gain procedural knowledge, which is useful for achieving PO6. So more question. So the inclination of the questions framed for course 2 will be more towards apply and analyze. In the case of number 1 course, it will be more towards remember and understand, less towards apply, because this is mainly covering the factual and conceptual knowledge. So that's the idea here. It may or may not be applicable to your programs, but this is what it is expected when you are designing a program structure using outcomes-based education concepts. Then we moved on to the course outcome designing technique, and we looked at this model, and I was suggesting you to think about what knowledge dimensions your course delivers, whether you could identify some chunks of the course knowledge uh, that is delivered by your course. I'm not referring to the units covered by the uh, I mean, the syllabus is structured into 5 to 6 units, but those are logical grouping of the concepts covered in the course. They may not be really mapped to the chunks of the knowledge related to factual knowledge or conceptual knowledge. You may not be able to identify very definite boundaries if you just look at the units. So if you just zoom out, a little, and kind of try to see whether you could find out some chunks of the knowledge that is factual knowledge and let's say conceptual knowledge. And if your course is delivering even procedural knowledge, if you could find out such chunks there, then how many of those are there? Logical, can you group them logically? How many of such chunks are there? Let's say 2 of conceptual and 4 of factual, right, are there. And then for each of these chunks, the program designer may not be the teacher, but somebody who is given the responsibility of designing the program structure has to think about that at what level the teacher has to evaluate the students for this chunk, factual knowledge chunk 1, factual knowledge chunk number 2, and then based on that, this course outcome statements have to be designed. And then you at the junction point has to be identified, and then based on that the course outcome statement can be easily designed. And if you apply this model, within 15 to 20 minutes you'll be able to come out with a very properly designed course outcome statements. And this is the technique. Knowledge, action knowledge, condition and criteria is used by us to come out with the statements of course outcomes, which are appropriately designed, which inherit the properties of the program outcomes and the course outcomes, and continuously it inherits the requirement of the teaching knowledge and learning knowledge by the students. These 2 requirements are addressed by such course outcomes. However, many times I found that course outcomes are designed by looking at the units, and those are absolutely not the course level outcomes. Those outcomes can be called as unit level outcomes, but definitely those are not course level outcomes, because course level outcomes have to be designed by looking at the knowledge delivered by the course and what POs it is satisfying, and based on that this course outcome statement has to be designed. So we looked at incorrectly designed course outcome statements here, and then we moved on to the other level of application of this model. So earlier we saw the application of the top-down design by using example of 2 courses. Now we are going to take the whole set of courses belonging to a program, and then we were to see whether there is any how easy it is to see actually then the relationship between the course and the program's outcomes, and which helps you also quickly find out the mappings between the COs and the POs, because that's another level of concept, I mean the complexity that gets added into the framework design, and that this complexity can be eliminated immediately, and we can make it very simple if you create a model like this, which is called as, actually in the terminology used in some of the accreditation processes, this model is called as program articulation matrix, which is nothing but creating relationship between the course and the program outcomes being made by that course. So this is the way this mapping is done. And then if you look at the kind of the knowledge that is being delivered by these courses, you will see that in the initial period of the graduation, the courses are delivering more of factual, conceptual, less of procedural, and this scale changes over a period of time, and then slowly those courses start delivering less factual and less conceptual and more procedural and more metacognitive kind of knowledge, because there are more and more activities that are designed for the students to be able to learn something more than just the skills. And that kind of possibility is there when they reach little advanced level of the graduation process. So that's the that map. This kind of model gives you a fair idea about how to frame the questions and what should be the distribution or the percentage of the questions to be asked for each level of the cognitive process. And this particular mapping can give you that idea very, very comprehensively and correctly. So this is the way, this is what we discussed last time. And now before going ahead, I would like to ask whether there are any questions to be addressed by me before we go on to the next topic of the day today.
We can continue further.
Sounds good?
Okay, fine.
Okay. So this part of our FDP is going to cover these main points: how to identify a threshold, target, and then drive the CO attainment computation, how to do the CO's attainment analysis, how this CO's attainment is then transferred to the program outcomes, what parameters come in picture when the transfer of PO attainment happens to the program outcome, and then finally we can discuss the PO level analysis, and then based on the time availability, we can quickly talk about how outcome-based education framework also helps you to improve the employability outcomes. We discussed program articulation and course articulation matrix a little while ago. So this is our program articulation matrix. And I'm going to now go to the course articulation matrix, because here, if you look at one small brick here of a course here, I'm taking very simple example. A course in first semester, which is associated with PO1 and PO2 only, let's say has 5 COs. So naturally, all the 5 COs will have association with PO1 and PO2 only. It will not have any association with any of the skill level POs or any of the attitude level POs. If you take one course from here, let's say C5 of semester 4, this course will have affinity with, since it is already shown by 3 colors, right? There is some conceptual knowledge is covered, some of the skills are covered, and some activities are designed, which are going to help the students to achieve some attitude level skills as well, outcomes also. So naturally, the association of such course will be with maybe PO2, maybe PO3 or 4, and also let's say PO8 or PO9, depending upon the mapping here. So, however, one thing is very certain here, that any course, in these in these zones, cannot have kind of an association with all the POs. It is impossible. However, I have come across with examples of teachers mapping their COs randomly to any PO. Many times, all the POs of the program. It only means that they have not understood it. It is impossible. You can see from here, it's very logical to say that a course in a particular semester, which is actually supposed to take care of only certain program outcomes, and that this uh, derivation can come only by after you analyze what knowledge this course is delivering. And if you the moment you get that idea, it becomes extremely easy for you to check the association of this course with what kind of program outcomes it is achieving, helping the students to achieve. And based on that, the mapping can be easily identified. And that is the program articulation matrix. And when you pick one course and then find out what program outcomes the course is helping the students to achieve, that can be called as course articulation matrix. So here, if you take an example for the discussion of COPO attainment, we will take a course, and this course is represented by this icon. So throughout my presentation, I am using this icon to represent a course, and this course has 5 COs. So I'm going to use this example to drive our discussion further. We talked about this just a while ago, right? Course articulation matrix. So I'm keeping this very simple. I'm saying that all the course outcomes are mapped to 3 POs: PO1, PO2, and PO4, not to PO3. And I'm keeping this level of affinity same. This is a new concept I'm introducing now here. And 3 is being represented by substantial, 2 means moderate, and 1 means slight. So what it means is that this CO and this PO1 has very strong affinity. It's very important to achieve this CO1 if the students have to achieve PO1 related goals. However, although this CO is not strongly affiliated with PO4, but still, certain part of that is delivered by the course, which is related to CO1, is fulfilling some minor aspects of PO4 also. Now here the PO4 may be from skill category of the POs, and these 2 POs may be from knowledge category of the PO. So it means that this course is kind of also delivering some part of procedural knowledge, skill related things, right? So this very easily we can identify. However, since it's not very heavily inclined towards the skill category of POs, we can say that it has got lower affinity, although it is covering that PO, but it is not substantially addressed. However, PO1 and PO2 are substantially addressed. So that's the way the course articulation matrix can be easily created. And again here, since with this simple thought is not applied on creating the course articulation matrix, again randomly any mapping is given anywhere, and as I said many times, all the COs are mapped with all the POs, which is an impossible thing to achieve. So if it's just a simple thought, 5 minutes of thought can be given to arrive at very logically created matrix and of relationship between the COs and the POs. In real life, it may look like this. In real life, you may say that CO1 is not addressing PO4 at all. and CO2 is addressing a bit of PO1, but more of PO4. CO3 is directly associated with PO4. There is no relationship between PO1 and PO2. So this could be the association. For this kind of association to be done correctly, designing of the course outcome correctly is the foremost important step. So correctly designed POs also is going to be helpful to arrive at right association between the POs and the COs. So now I'm going to represent this relationship in this manner. This looks a little better. Instead of a table, we can use this as a iconic picture of our course and its association, and we'll take it further. So there are 5 COs. This is the course, and all the COs have association with all the POs in the same degree of affinity. It's very kept simple. Otherwise, when we are covering little confusing concepts, I wanted things to be kept at very basic, simple level, and that's why I'm doing that. So how a course level CO attainment is arrived at. Before going ahead, if you have any questions, please let me know. Are there any questions, organizers?
Sir, we are dropped a link over there in that if they have any question, it is a live streaming. So they will write question in FB and we will ask you over there, maybe at the end of the session.
Okay.
And those who are joining directly, they can write in chat box also.
Yes, something like that.
Question on FB.
Okay, sounds good.
We can continue, sir.
Okay. So here we will start. Discuss the how the computation of the course level attainment is done. The attainment computation actually starts at every question level. Every question has to be mapped with a CO, which the question is going to assess the student's learning on the scale of the cognitive process, right? So every question has a meaning there, has a purpose, and the purpose is to see whether the students have achieved those desired levels on the cognitive scale. And slowly in the sense, progressively, the attainment computation moves upwards from a single question to, and it gets aggregated at every exam level, and from exam level to, rather it goes to the course level. Total average attainment can be computed, and that final number from there is transferred to the PO. So let us see how progressively this attainment computation happens. So there are groups of direct and indirect tools. Direct tools are nothing but the formative and summative assessments, and indirect tools are the course and surveys and other surveys such as exit surveys. Not at the course and surveys, but an example of indirect survey is also the exit survey. So at the course level, there are course and surveys which are considered to be part of indirect tools. And when it comes to direct tools, there are further division of formative and summative assessments, and these are the examples of those. So for your the continuous assessment test, or internal assessments, or unit level exams, midterm exams are the examples of formative exams, and summative exams are the ones which are conducted at the end of the term, which considers the entire syllabus of the course, and that's why those are called as summative exams. The reason these direct tools are divided into these two categories are because many times there is a tendency of considering different weightages for formative and summative. When weightages for giving importance to the computation of the course outcome attainment. So there is a notion that the attainment computation that happens through the formative assessments is of lesser weight than the attainment computation done via summative exams. Now, the since for private universities, they may say that formative assessments and summative assessments both are designed by us, so we don't believe that there is a less, the formative assessments have less importance. So they may say that we will keep the weightage same as 0.5, 0.5. We don't want to change it. The affiliated colleges may say that since summative exam is conducted by university, it is to be considered as given more importance than the formative assessments. And this has been the notion so far, but very now, since institutions are actually those who have implemented outcome-based education since last 3 to 4 years, they have understood that this is not the right argument. The problem is that the universities don't give them the detailed information about the marks scored by the students for every question. So they are unable to do the analysis of the attainment, meaningfully. And what happens is that since they get only the big, the marks scored by the students in the final exam, uh, it spoils the accuracy of the computation if since such inaccurate data is taken in, and then it hides the purpose of driving the country's improvement. So although for the purpose of accreditation they have to consider that summative exams marks, but for the purpose of outcome-based education implementation from the perspective of driving continuous improvement, my uh, sincere opinion is that formative assessments are really the better tools to assess the student learning gaps, identifying the hotspots, and carrying out the continuous improvement. Because formative assessments give you an opportunity to see where the students learning is very in the beginning of the semester itself. So within the first 1 month, if there is an assignment, you can immediately find out whether or not sufficient number of students are achieving those desired levels of cognitive process. And that's why formative assessments are actually more important in the outcome based education than the summative exams. Now there is another level of weightages for direct and indirect tools, and it is correct that direct tools have to have better weightage, higher weightage than the indirect ones, because the teachers evaluate the responses of the students. Here in this case, the indirect tools teach students share their opinion, and many times that is not very accurately done. And that's why, although for the sake of compliance, we have to ask the students what their opinion is about achieving the goals of the learning outcomes. Many universities have started giving lesser and lesser weightage to indirect tools. I have come across with one example of zero weightage assigned to indirect tools, because that spoils the accuracy of the attainment percentages calculated for direct tools. Because the attainments coming from indirect tools are very high, 80, 90, 95%, and that's not the real picture, and that's why it spoils the overall computation of the attainment. So there is a tendency of giving as less as possible weightage to indirect tools. I have taken an example of 25%, but even people go below that. So I'm going to take one example of attainment percentage calculated out of all the formative assessments, which was, let's say, 55%, and from end term you got 40% as CO1 attainment. Then you will have to apply that weight here, and then once the weight is applied, you will get weighted attainment of CO1 at direct tool level. So this is the aggregated attainment of CO1 at direct tools level, which is 46%. And likewise, you will get CO1 attainment from indirect tools, because there will be some questions asked in the course end survey which were related to CO1, and then you will get some percentage of attainment from there as well. And then once you transfer this attainment further upwards at the course level, when you kind of aggregate everything from various assessments, then you get weighted attainment like this, right? 54.5%. Now, because this percentage here was higher, this 46 became 54, but that may not be the right true picture, and that's why many educators don't like tools to be weighted so high, and that reflection is now can be seen in the outcomes-based education frameworks designed by many universities in India now. So finally, when you transfer the number of attainment percentage to the program outcomes, this is the number that you would transfer. Program outcomes are not directly evaluated. They are not directly mapped to any questions. And this statement is true for NBA accreditation. For ABET accreditation, the questions and evaluation methods are little different than this. So, however, since in NAC and NBA both follow similar concepts of outcome-based education, this is what is applicable here. Now, we have to now start, understanding the computation process of outcomes. So there are 6 steps involved here, and first is finding. Let me go back. First is finding CO mapping of every question in each assignment, then grouping them as per the questions and the mapping of the COs. Then identify the student performance threshold value, compute the question-wise attainment, then compute aggregated CO attainment for each CO, and then finally compare it with the target, if any. So when it comes to comparing it with the target, we would handle multiple numbers here, which are related to. One is related to the student performance, which is also defined in percentages. The other one is also defined in percentages, which is attainment computation itself. That's also another number in represented in percentages. And the third number that is represented in percentages is the target. So there are 3 numbers. They almost look same, and that's why there is a huge amount of confusion between these 3 parameters. One is student performance threshold. Second is the actual attainment computation, and third is target. However, the 3 have totally different role to play, and let's see how these parameters are defined and what is the effect of those parameters. So this is our course, and I'm going to consider 3 assignments in it. Each of the assignment has 4 questions for the simplicity, and every question obviously has to have a mapping with a CO. So I have shown you how the questions are mapped with the COs in each of these assignments, right? And then we have to group these questions now according to their mappings with the CO. So we have 3 questions each for CO1 and CO2, and 2 questions each for remaining COs, as you can see here. Now we have to go for understanding the second step in our attainment computation is rather third one is to find out the threshold value. So threshold value here is 60%, for example, and this question is of 2 marks. So this is organized on Y scale, and these are the students on X axis, and students have scored these marks. Now, this question is of 2 marks, and the student performance threshold value is 60%. That's a performance defined in 60%, and that will be here. That will be on the scale here. 1.2 will be the threshold here. Obviously, we don't give the marks in 0.2 fraction. We may give marks in 0.5 as fractional marks, but since it is the threshold is arriving at 1.2, we can consider that value here, and then we have to understand how many students are above this and how many students are below this. That's the idea here. And so this concept of threshold value is very similar to the pass or fail qualification decision, which is taken when the students score 30 or 35% marks in a course, and if they happen to be below that, we say that they are failed in the whole course because their average performance of the student is such and such percent. And that's nothing but the student performance threshold. So that is used for taking a decision about qualify or disqualify. Here, a decision is different. Concept is same. That is a threshold value of 60%. And here it is applied for every question. It is not applied for the whole course. It is applied for every question. And then when you look at the marks scored by the students, this threshold value is applied, and then it is said that the student has attained the course outcome or not attained the course outcome. That's the kind of decision taken here by applying this threshold value. There are 3 commonly asked questions for when it comes to threshold value. And the first is how to identify a threshold, how to decide whether it is 60% or 75% or 45%, how to decide that. And this is a very obvious question, not defined by anybody very so openly, and that's why this question comes up. But however, it is many senior educationists say that you take last 3 years courses of the course which in discussion, and find out what is the average performance of the students in each of the courses of the previous batches, and then average out those and come out with the number. For example, in previous year's course, the average performance of all the students for all the assignments was 55%. Then current year -2, it was 50%, and current year -3, it was 60%. So the average attainment of these 3 courses will be, another average performance value will be 55%. 50 plus 55 plus 60, average is 55, and that will be considered as the threshold value for the current year. Now, you will be able to assess whether or not this was the right assumption immediately after the first couple of formative exams. And if you find that the percentage of attainment is reaching 90s and 95, right, 98, that means the assumption was incorrect. The attainment of the students can be that high, it's not practical. So it only means that your threshold value was too low. So bring it up to some desired level, and then to bring down the attainment percentage to reasonable level, like 35, 45 or whatever, right? And then you have a room for improvement in the years to come, and also in the next assignments in the same course, you get kind of ground to cover there, right? So here, one of the most important and fundamental and foundational concept in outcome-based education is that the teacher should not worry about the percentage of the attainment number, whether it's low or high, is misconception. what, if the computation framework given to a teacher is producing attainment percentages like 19% or 25%, 30%, right? It doesn't matter actually. What is important is that whether 19% has become 22% in the next exam, and whether 25% become 26% in the next exam, and that incremental, positive incremental change in that value is more important than the value itself. And that's why teachers should not worry about lower percentages of the course attainment. It is more important to think about what is a positive change that is happening by what percent. 1%, 2% is also very good achievement in considered achievement in outcome-based education philosophy. Second, frequently asked question is whether the threshold could vary for every course in a program, and the answer is yes. It is quite obvious because quite a few courses are very easy, quite a few courses are very complex traditionally, and for example M3, or there could be some other such examples in other branches. But that's what happens, and naturally the threshold values, if you calculate those based on the previous 3 years, then you will have a lower number there, and that is fine, perfectly all right. Should the threshold be changed every year for the same course? My suggestion is not to do that, because when it comes to longitudinal analysis, finding out the trends, and finding out some common hotspots which you are observing each year, then that might get affected, because that if you change the threshold value, the percentage of the students who are above the threshold value changes, and that will confuse you whether or not there was any performance change, right? And because the number will vary, and then you will not be able to recognize whether there was any positive change there, or whether there was a negative change, and then whether there is a need for corrective actions, remedial actions. That cannot be determined if you change the threshold value every year. So it defeats the purpose of outcomes-based education. Now, the next step in our process is identifying the threshold value, which we have done, and what we are doing is we are keeping it same for all the course outcomes. Advanced users of outcome-based education tend to change these values for every course outcome, and but obviously that adds a lot of complexity in the analysis, and however they keep it same for 3 to 4 years, but they may have variation in the threshold values for every course outcome, but they will keep constant for next 3 to 4 years. That's the way also some of the advanced implementers of OB do in the computation of outcomes. But we are keeping it simple. 60% for all the COs is the threshold value, and now as we had done it for a course, a question 1 earlier of 2 marks, and threshold value was 1.2. We have seen this computation before, and this is how it was done. If you take other question which was also of 2 marks, threshold is same. Question 3 of 5 marks, threshold is 3, because 5 multiplied by 0.6 will be 3. So this is how the absolute threshold value will have to be computed by looking at the threshold percentage for every course outcome. So course outcome has threshold, and then based on the maximum marks of the questions, threshold, the marks at which the student's performance has to be evaluated will change. So this is what we have done now, and now we will compute the attainment percentages. So coming back to question 1 of 2 marks, the students are represented by these bold numbers, and this row that follows has the marks scored by them. And the students who are shown in green boxes are above the threshold value, right? 1.2. And that's why they are shown in green, and rest of the students are shown in white boxes because they are below 1.2 threshold value. So it's very simple now. Just some of the students who are in green boxes and those who are in white boxes, and it gives you a ratio. 26 out of 60 are above the threshold line, and that gives you 43% as the attainment percentage. So 60 is the threshold here, and attainment percentage 43. What it means is that 26% students are above this 60% threshold line, and the attainment percentage 43. So this is the second number that you get from every question. So question 2 may have different level of attainment. We have seen this. Other question may have different level of attainment because number of students who could go above that threshold line will vary, and accordingly the attainment percentage will vary. So every question needs to be evaluated from the perspective of computation of CO attainment, and then you have to aggregate that attainment at the top level. So when you do that, the idea is that you count the number of students above the threshold line of each question and sum those up. So here, this is what I have done here. Summation is done. So 96 students are there, and 60 is the class strength, right? So the sum of these denominators is 180, and then you get 96 divided by 180. 53% is the attainment of CO1, which is contributed by these 3 questions. This is very simple actually, right? Now, there is another discussion that comes up when the discussion of the denominator comes. So the 2 questions that always are asked are whether not to consider the students who were absent, and whether we should consider students who did not answer that particular question. Now, these 2 questions come from the fact that there is a fear in the minds of the teacher that, if I would stick to 60, then naturally the attainment percentage will be low. And naturally, then it will be a problem. And if I would remove the absent students and students who did not answer the question, that means the denominator will be lower, and then the attainment percentage will be higher, and then bigger number will look good, and then my problem is solved. So that's the fear, and it's a total misconception, and it's a defeat of our implementation of outcome-based education. So outcome-based education says that it's obviously the number doesn't matter whether it's looking lower or higher. It doesn't matter. What matters is what is the change, percentage incremental change, positive change in those numbers progressively in your course. So it doesn't mean that if you score 76% as the attainment for CO1, it doesn't mean that you need not improve anything there. It has to be still go to 77 or 78 in the upcoming exams or next year when things are improved further. So this philosophy of continuous improvement doesn't stop, regardless of whether the number is lower looking number or high, bigger looking number. It doesn't matter. That's the idea here. And so one should not worry about this denominator too much. Now for CO1, we can apply the same concept and arrive at average attainment. In this case, CO2 attainment is 50%, and in the case of CO3 attainment, it is 76%. Right? CO2 had only 2 questions mapped to it, but in both the questions, the performance of the student was excellent, and that's why the CO3 got 76% here. So finally, the picture of our course is looking like this. We have 53, 50, 76, 65, and 62 are our course outcomes, and this is our course, which has got 3 POs. This is the affinity level, and all the course outcomes are mapped to all the POs, and they have equal degree of affinity. If you recall the course articulation matrix, that's the idea we used, right? So now is the time for us to transfer this attainment to the POs, but before that, we have to also consider quickly the target of the attainment, and then also look at then how this target helps you in quickly identifying the problems in the, because it highlights the, although as I mentioned to you earlier that it doesn't matter whether your attainment was looking big or small, the continuous improvement has to still happen. However, for let's say for a new teacher, you in your system doesn't know much about the computation and the behavior of the system, the computation framework. These kind of targets help them. So if it is covered in your course file, this definition, then that becomes a reference that okay, at least this much attainment percentage has to be there. So if we consider 55% as a target for our course, the CO1 CO2 is immediately out of below the target, and naturally if you go back, you can see the questions which were below the target and which were there right from the beginning, right? But it did not show you that problem because nothing was being compared with, and that's the only beauty of the target levels. It immediately changes the perspective. And then when you go back to your analysis, you'll see that there are quite a few students who scored 0, and they are the ones who have to be taken through the remedial action, so that next time when a question related to CO1 is asked, their performance is likely to be better. That is the idea here. So now we will look at the transfer of the CO attainment to the program outcomes. So here I'm going to consider CO1 percentage to be transferred to PO1. It will also go to PO2, and it will also go to PO4 because every CO is mapped with every PO. So this is the transfer of the number that will happen. Likewise, if I would transfer CO2, similarly 50, 50, 50 will be transferred there. 76 also will transfer 76, 76, 76. And then you will have to average out the attainment of the PO from this course. There is a second school of thought that says that the attainment of the person at course outcomes, when it is transferred to the POs, it is ideal to look at the affinity levels, and then you transfer the percentage. So for example, if I would transfer 53, it will transfer 53 because the weight here is 1, because substantial affinity is there between CO1 and PO1. However, CO1 has moderate affinity, and when I transfer this number, it will get multiplied by 0.67, and 35.5 only will get transferred. Now, likewise, CO1 height affinity here, 0.3 is the weight of slight affinity, and only 17.5 will get transferred. So this is how the weight system of the affinity levels will come in picture when the attainment percentage is transferred. This has got some merits. I also agree with that because if big numbers, let's say in earlier case 53% was transferred here also. So it will look like that PO4 is also getting attained really well from this course, but however this course has very less to contribute for PO4. So if you were to take decisions about the about whether or not a PO is below or above the target levels, desired levels, then these numbers will confuse you if you are comparing it with targets. But if you have a notion of improving continuously each and every PO, then obviously these numbers are going to just give you an idea, comparative idea. If PO4 has always been at a certain level over a period of last 3-4 batches, or it is going down or going upwards or staying constant. So as long as you are able to do that kind of analysis, longitudinal analysis or trend analysis between the batches, which method you are using, either this method or this method, really doesn't matter, provided that is helping you to do a right gap analysis of the POs. At the end of the day, that is what is to be achieved by implementing the outcomes-based education. So any method that works for you is good enough for implementation of OBE. So now I am showing you what will happen if another CO's percentage is transferred to the PO. And so you will get two different values here. Likewise, every CO will contribute some value here. So you will get 5 values for every PO, and then you can just average it out and then consider that as the final attainment percentage contributed by all the COs of this course. Because these COs are the vehicles of passing on the attainments to the POs. And at the end of the graduation program, by the end of the graduation program, this is what will be the final achievement of all the students in that program. And that's why this transfer of attainment is important. Now, we have been talking about one course so far, but the beauty is that in the same term, multiple courses are being learned by the students. And these courses are delivered by multiple teachers. So each of these course is delivering some attainment percentage to the POs, because every course attainment calculation is happening independently, and since all the courses are mapped with the PO, they will start contributing their percentages to the corresponding program outcome. So this is course 1, this is course 2. It has got different POs mapping. You can see the right side. This course has a little different mappings with other POs, right? Likewise, this course has 4 POs mapped with that. Another course also has 4 POs, but there is a variation in the POs mapped with this course. So finally, zoom out and you will see these 5 courses, and then there are various program outcomes mapped with various courses. So this is how the program outcomes are achieved by the students by going through these courses. Now, if you further zoom out, you will see that this course has 3 POs mapped with it. Another course also has 3 POs. This also has 3 POs. The 4th course has 4 POs, and a 5th course also has 4 POs mapped with it. Now, if you look at PO4 has 4 courses mapped to it. PO6 has 3 courses mapped to it, right? And then PO3, PO5, PO7, PO8 has 2 courses each, but PO1 and PO2 has only 1 course mapping. So there has to be something very significant about this PO4, due to which there are so many courses mapped to it. So it doesn't mean that achievement of PO4 is very important from the perspective of the students. Is that why there are so many courses associated with PO4? So it also, this kind of metric then also gives you an idea about that if the percentage of the attainment of the PO4 starts dropping down, then everybody has to look at why PO4 percentage is dropping down. Because according to your program design, achieving PO4 is very important, because it must be about getting some job in particular industry, or it is about sending more students in top level colleges for higher education, or it could be related with entrepreneurial development of the students. So why? Because and this is This kind of derivation can come out of analysis like this. You can set the triggers that PO4 seems to be the most important ones, and then let's not allow the attainment percentage to go down below this level, and that's why the targets are important. And this is a kind of analysis helps you taking such decisions. But you may realize that, hey, there seems to be some problem here, because according to you the PO4 is not that so important. It is actually PO6 is important, not PO4. Then why we are not having more courses for PO6? That's also another decision that comes out. So that is why, if you recall our definition of outcome-based education helps you take the decision about the curriculum design, and this is what is about the curriculum design. Are you with me? Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
So now you zoom out further. And you will see that this is a batch which is just graduated in 2020, and then they have completed all the semesters, and you can see these courses here. And each course will contribute something to the corresponding program outcomes. As you know, the number of program outcomes for, let's say, management degree could be 7-8, but for 4 years engineering program it could be 12 to 15 program outcomes. However, the number of courses could be 20, 30, 40. So there are one too many mappings. So naturally, there could be many outcomes to the program level outcomes, and such a matrix will help you tremendously to take many important decisions about your curriculum design. And then finally, you can actually compare your attainments with the targets. And as I mentioned, if PO4 was so important for you, you have to always keep a look at it, always monitor it very carefully, and give more practice to the students to master PO4 if you believe that that's one of the most important POs to achieve. Right? So it also has impact on the way you design your assessments. So now, if you further zoom out and take yourself 10,000 feet on the top, and you will see that there are multiple batches now running in the college, and some of the batches have finished 3 years, but the 4th year data is yet to come. And then the latest batch would have completed 2 years, and the data for 3rd and 4th year is yet to come. And the batch which just admitted this year may not have any data, right? So naturally, such batches with low data do not give you correct idea about the PO level attainment. They will start giving you good analysis at the course level, but not necessarily at the PO level. Because it's like cricket's first 1 or 2 overs where the average run rate will be very high, but that's not the real picture. So we have to wait for some time to settle that percentage down, and then you can start looking at it. So this is how over a period of time the achieved percentages of the POs can be improved by taking the corrective actions using the data-driven analysis approach. And outcome-based education helps in doing that properly, provided your program design is correctly done, provided your course outcomes are correctly designed, by looking at the knowledge levels that are covered by every course, mapping the courses with the POs. So creating the proper framework of outcome-based education is a fundamental step towards achieving such wonderful goals by implementing outcome-based education. This is very specific to those who undergo NBA accreditation. So there they say that you normalize the CO attainment in 1 and 2 and 3 by using this metric like this, and then you transfer the CO attainment to the PO. So the idea is same here. The only thing is instead of percentages, a normalized number of 1, 2, and 3 is transferred to the POs. So InPots is a technology that actually helps you automate this whole calculation process, and then you can focus on your teaching and just log into InPots, and then you get this analysis here. So I'm not going to actually walk you through this in details. We can do that whenever um, a separate discussion is planned between us. But this is the way the computation happens. The data moves upwards, in each semester as the students progress from one semester to the next semester. Data keeps coming to the POs in this manner, and you can do, once you have reached data on the top at the PO level, you can easily do analysis of why certain POs are lower than the target. You can find out the courses which are associated with those, the assignments which are pulling down the attainment levels, and then we can quickly do longitudinal analysis also. If you have enough data, good data in previous batches also, then you can do this kind of analysis. You can see now progressively in the batches, the attainment is improving. Here you can see more students are in satisfactory range of the performance, and there, although there is a drop of students, number of students in exemplary category, still the middle range is improving and the lowermost range is dropping. That's also one of the achievements here. Probably this is a new course, sufficient data is not there, that's why it's not showing the train properly, but it means that there is not enough data yet. So this is the kind of analysis you can do quickly using in parts and achieve your outcome-based education goals. Now, looking at the problems identified, remedial actions have to be planned, and then those can be planned in this manner, and there could be a tracking mechanism, and then you can also see whether desired positive percentage is achieved by all the teachers in that. So, as I mentioned earlier, that if you do the design of OB correctly, it is possible for you to also improve the employability outcomes of the student. So this is the idea here. The idea is that try to identify how many courses are important from the perspective of a competency profile given to you by a company. So the highlighted courses according to you are important for one of the competency profiles. That mapping can be done by you, and then if you try to find out all other competency profiles given by multiple employers, and also you can map the competency profiles required for higher education in one of the topmost universities of the institutions in India, where you want your students to go for further higher education. That those competency profiles also can be added here, and then you can create a mapping like this. So if you look at from the student's perspective, if their dream competency profile too, but the system may show them that their actual journey is happening towards competency profile, and they are less likely to reach the competencies required for profile 2. And this is the prediction that system can do, and these are the added advantage of technology that you can achieve if the OB things are done correctly. So this is also one of the ways the predictions can be done. So these are the 3 roles which we just talked about. And this sphere here is about meeting the expectations. So if the student is crossing this point here, they are likely to get a job here. So more they are towards this, naturally they are the more suitable, favorable for the job for those roles, right? That's the idea here. And if the student is looking at his or her own performance, they may say that they are very good here, they are almost there, they are almost here. But the system can tell them that that's not so. Their assessment about roll number is right, but it may not be that accurate for other roles. So they have a gap to manage here, and what that gap is, how that gap could be managed. And these are the kind of inputs students can be given by their mentors, because these mentors are there in many institutions who mentor 10 to 15 students throughout their journey of graduation. And if these mentors get data like this, they can give right inputs to these students by looking at analysis like this. And these also is also called as a smart student advising system in some of the countries like USA or Europe, in some of the countries in Europe. And such a smart student advising system is based on data, obviously, and that data should exist first of all, and then only the models of machine learning and artificial intelligence could be created, and such predictive analysis could be generated. And we have done that as a case study for some of the top level engineering college, and we could predict the final year marks of the students, just an experiment with them. So this is INPOTS, and INPOTS is actually known for our very powerful accreditation management system and other technologies like outcome-based education, and for learning management system for online teaching learning, and then accreditation management system for NAC, NBA, and LRF. And because of this, myself and my team members have got insights into outcomes-based education, NAC accreditation, NBA accreditation, and also ABET, because we have read the specification. We have attended hundreds and thousands of meetings with various senior educators in India, discussed with them what their requirements are. Accordingly, we have developed our products and technologies, and that's why I could share some of the insights with all of you. I'm 100% sure that each one of you are excellent teachers and innovator in your own field of education. So you also possess a special knowledge about your field, as much as we do have some special knowledge about outcome-based education and education technologies. So, however, it is just the exchange of ideas and thoughts between us as grown-up professionals. Between us, there is no relationship of teacher and student here. It is just about sharing the knowledge, and that's the way I look at it. Towards this faculty development program. It's not for me FDP, but that's the word that is known and commonly used. That's why I called it as FDP. But for me, it is knowledge sharing session, nothing more than that. Thank you so much. That is the end of the session from my end, and I would love to address questions if any.
Thank you so much, sir. So, are we having any questions from the participants? 25 participants who are present here, they can write the question in the chat box. If at all any one of you is having a question. Okay, so I believe, sir, that Mahendra Patel, sir, has posted one question, sir.
Okay.
In the chat box.
Okay. Yeah. So, how can we fix the target percentage? Yeah, actually, I addressed this. The targets. It's like a high jump target, right? So, if you're achieving the targeted values of CO attainment, just move the bar upwards by a couple of notches for the next year. It's just like that, right? Just to motivate yourself to achieve better outcomes every year. That's the target.
Okay, sir. Thank you for the reply. I think Mahendra Patel, sir, has said that he has got the point.
Yeah.
Any other questions from any one of you? Okay. So I believe that is it with the questions. Sir, it was really so much helpful session, and we people are in a practice of preparing COs and POs for different institutes of Parul University. And I believe that those who have attended the session would definitely be able to improve and emphasize more on the important aspects of COs and POs you have put forward. So this was indeed a very helpful session for us, because we are on a process, we are progressing for the NEC and NBA and other accreditations, and definitely this was a very insightful input for the same. We will be looking forward for more from you, sir, and organizing such sessions which can help us to make a benchmark, create a benchmark for the data we are preparing for the assorted accreditations. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your precious time. And from all the participants and from all the HOIs, deans, directors, as well as director of IQSC, Dr. Falguni Acharya, I extend my vote of thanks and gratitude towards you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I wish you all the best for your accreditation processes and COPO designing and outcome-based education framework designing. I would love to address questions, if any, later on. Please post it to me anytime. So it was a wonderful interaction between Parul University and me, who is representing IMPARTS, and looking forward to engage more with all of you. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.